Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Shri-Vacha-kalpatarubhyasya Kripa-sindhubhya-eva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Śrī Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhara Śrīvāsadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Nitai Namineche Namirhate Shadamuyenam Tite Chere Nitai Namineche Namirhate Shadamuyenam Tite Chere Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're so grateful that you all came up for this. There's so much going on, but it's a pleasure for us to see you and for us all to be together. Isn't it nice?
Yes.
In the course of meeting devotees and living our lives and chanting Hari Krishna, and devotees we meet various places make the most important decision of their life, and that is to surrender to Krishna. A wiser choice was never made. And when several devotees do that, and we're involved, and we have a relationship, then it becomes very special for us. But then after some time, when we meet in a room that has a capacity for 64, and there might be more than that, then we're somewhat surprised, because where did everybody come from? So it seems as if we're just living our lives and doing what Lord Chaitanya said to do. And so many of the times the result, well, almost all the time, or I should say all the time, the result is inordinate. Because it's the miracle. As Mahaprabhu said, if you sow a seed and you water it, then, as he was saying metaphorically, but if we think about just an ordinary tree, it's a miracle also. Because when you look at a seed, it looks like something small, but with a little air, light, soil, rain, it turns into a tree that's fruit-bearing or flower-bearing and fruit-bearing. And it's quite a miracle. And Krishna consciousness is a spiritual seed. Well, as Chaitanya Mahāprabhu said, planting that seed within the heart, which takes place by our own sincerity. There's a time in our sojourn here in this world, who knows how long it's been, we just call it immemorial, since a time immemorial. So long, Prabhupada said, you can't trace it back. Through various creations, and those are long, 311 trillion years. And when we're finally in touch with the sound vibration from the spiritual world, what's more, we recognize our own attraction to it. That's the combination. When we sincerely desire to know who we are, what the purpose of life is, and to come back to Krishna. And Krishna makes all arrangements. And oftentimes, before we even know it, he's making arrangements. And then we realize, retrospectively, that he's made arrangements for us. The Bhagavad Gītā is the best thing that ever happened to the world. Because Kṛṣṇa spoke to Arjuna, but essentially he spoke to everybody. And with one arrow, he was able to bring the whole world back to Godhead through his instruction, or whomever can take the Bhagavad Gītā to heart. The seed of bhakti especially grows in the environment where we can see for ourselves, even if we're entangled, and everyone is in one way or another, which is not a bad thing. It's a way in which entanglement may inspire us more, because we'll see what the results of our activities are and start to cool them down a little bit and be more exclusively dedicated to Kṛṣṇa. But the environment of the heart and mind, when we recognize that we don't want anything else but Kṛṣṇa, that's the happiest day in the life of any living entity. Because at that very moment, when we can see in our heart that that's our desire, I only want Kṛṣṇa, and I only want devotional service. And Kṛṣṇa has been waiting for that moment since a time immemorial, and he begins, as he says in the Bhagavad Gītā, to give us the intelligence how to come to him. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam. Kṛṣṇa notices our sincerity. And one of the demonstrations of sincerity that we might like to offer to Kṛṣṇa, or the ways that we may want to demonstrate our sincerity, is by doing service and by being steadfast in our vows. These hurdles that we may face in our lives, because the material world is a sticky place, and once desires get in the heart or habits develop, it takes some time to get unstuck. But the solvent that unsticks us is our own sincerity. And when Kṛṣṇa begins to give us intelligence, he'll measure our desire for demonstrating to him how sincere we are. And it may seem like some kind of a challenge, but actually every step in life is a victorious step for a person who's decided that they're going to surrender to Kṛṣṇa no matter what. And nothing can stop us, because there is no external influence that can stop us from surrendering to Kṛṣṇa. No circumstance, no confinement externally. It all has to do with our own sincerity. And one of the ways that we can express our sincerity is through prayer. That when we pray to Kṛṣṇa, heartfelt prayers, asking Kṛṣṇa for service and more intelligence and more association, and also to become wise enough to know what's good for us and what isn't. Kṛṣṇa will give us all that intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogamatam. He gives us intelligence. How to come to him means he'll reveal in our minds, in our hearts, how to become unstuck. And he'll also arrange circumstances in our life when, even though we may find it hard to do, he'll give us opportunities when it's to make it easier. So, chanting Hare Krishna is also the greatest pleasure when we're determined to meet Krishna, because He's there present in His holy name. And when we have a desire in our heart to advance in devotional service, and we chant at the same time, being fully aware that this is a call to Krishna to please give me more opportunity, more intelligence, more strength, inner strength, then chanting Hare Krishna becomes our lifeline. Chanting our japa, it's not a struggle. There's no technique, actually, to chant japa. It's a state of mind and heart that, on one side, enough's enough. That's it. I'm not going to go on with this charade of the material identity I think I have. But I'm going to move towards Krishna and my identity as His eternal servant. Then when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's the greatest relief, because we're so oppressed in this world. Everything we ever do goes sideways eventually. Whatever plan we had gets crashed on the rocks somewhere. But when we chant Hare Krishna and just give ourselves to Krishna as His eternal servants, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Jiv Krishna Das e Bishwas korleto orduko nai. This is Bishwas. If you have this sense of determination in your heart, then he said, then you won't suffer in this world. The real suffering comes from our attachment, that I'm attached to this, that, and either I recognize that it's not good for me, but I can't give it up, or I don't yet recognize, or I don't want to see it. That's the other point. I don't want to hear about what various attachments might be detrimental. Because if I hear it, it's a little scary, because then maybe I'll have to give it up. So I keep it in a little cupped hand behind my back and like, what? I don't know, what? But what a relief to be able to bring the hand out and say, this is it. This is what I've been subjecting myself to. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I only want you, I only want you. Please take away all that is not good for me. And Krishna is the most expert. He'll do it even if we don't want Him to do it. But boy, the day when we do want Him to do it, that's freedom, that's liberation. It means I know what's there, I know what's holding me back, and now I'm going to offer it to Krishna, please take it away. Then there is really no problem in life. So I congratulate all of you for being such stalwarts to walk on this path and to go through all the heartbreaks that are inevitable in this world. In the Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that somewhere there's an ocean of tears here in the material world. You've heard of other kinds of oceans. We know the salt ocean and the milk ocean. There's an ocean of liquor. Can't make this stuff up. And there's an ocean of tears. And the Bhagavatam says because of the crying of the souls who are forlorn, they only want Krishna, but they're getting everything else but. And when we come to the realization that Krishna is everything, and that everything I ever wanted is in Kṛṣṇa, is coming from Kṛṣṇa, that all the cherished desires I have in this world, they are being fulfilled by Kṛṣṇa. He's behind all of it. So we are following in the footsteps of the great acharas, and even if we feel like we're incapable, we're inept, by following the path of the acharyas, going on with the practice of Krishna consciousness as given by our exalted disciplic succession, and we'll be victorious. Param vijayate Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. This is a battle cry, that you will be victorious by the Śrī Krishna Sankirtan. Om Tat Sat. You want to speak?
Ask questions.
You got to ask her a question. You got to just speak. If you are up for it, you want to take a little time for some questions? Yes? Okay. Yes.
Is there a mic to pass around?
We don't have a second mic, but
I'll repeat.
Do you mind holding this?
Oh, that's good.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
That doesn't amplify in the room, but it allows the people in line to hear. And if nobody can hear, if you can't hear in the back, I'll repeat what she's saying.
Yeah, I will try to. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna, Guru
You don't
Mata.
have to hold that right there. You can just hold it right.
Okay. I don't know how to handle how it works. I have a question regarding anarthas. When you don't.
She has a question regarding anarthas.
So many times I just recognize that it's kind of hypocrisy, even for.
Sometimes she recognizes a kind of hypocrisy.
Between myself and myself. So I don't even want to.
Yeah. Between myself and myself.
I don't even want to recognize them, and
I don't even want to recognize them.
And it's not even. I don't even want to show it to Kṛṣṇa, but even recognize for myself. For myself,
I don't even want to show myself.
Yeah, it's so. It means it's so deep. Some of them I'm able to show and tell Kṛṣṇa, just give it.
She's able to show.
And just offer and just ask to clear it and take it away. But some of them I know that it's so deep, and I don't even want to admit to myself that I have it.
You don't want to show it to yourself.
And admit it to myself that I have it.
Admit it to yourself.
Is it any other way how I can work on that? Like
is there
some
any
deep.
Other way?
Yes. Or
to
is
work
it?
On it?
Yes. Or should I just wait when somebody notice it and tell me about it and ask me to work on it?
Somebody notices?
Because it happens sometimes. Devotees, like especially close friends, they point to you like, "Oh, you have this," and then I know that it's inconvenient for others. Then I start working on it.
It seems inconvenient work for others to point out.
Yes, but
these anarthas.
Yes, but some of them I don't even want to admit that I have it, but I know that I have something. Is it any other
work? You don't
work?
want to admit that you have, but you know you have them. Yeah, I think we can relate. Thank you. Just let me know.
Okay,
Yes. One of the ways that we develop our character, or I should say the main way that we develop our character in this world or any other is by our association. And as Krishna says in the Gītā, kāraṇaṁ guṇa-saṅgo sad-asad-yoni-janmasu. Any situation you're in now, whatever way you've developed in your life, that is because of your association. And Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, when teaching about devotional service to Sanātana Gosvāmī, starts with talking about the power of association. And whenever you can get an opportunity to associate with those that you feel are ideal. Take the opportunity to hear from, to serve, and to observe. So it's very powerful that when you find somebody who is so high-minded that you're impressed with them, you're in good association. Somebody who's doing things better than you could imagine that you could. If you spend some time with such advanced devotees, then there's a way that you'll also start taking on their qualities. And if you can get advice from such gentle souls, you can reveal your mind to such persons and say, here's the specific thing, how should I deal with it? You may even feel safe enough to admit whatever your anartha is, and then it becomes diminished because of exposure to the light. And if you guhyam, akhyati, pricchati, Rupa Goswami says, we need this kind of fellowship with advanced devotees to be able to reveal our minds. And you can also work on yourself about being vulnerable, meaning start little by talking about what your anarthas are. There's a fear we might lose our stature in life. I wear a mask, that this is who I am as a human being or as a devotee or whatever societal situation I'm in. I feel I have to protect that in order to be whole and to be accepted, to be loved. But if you can find situations where you can practice your vulnerability and find those people you feel safe enough with that you can admit certain things about yourself, and then realize that not only are you okay, but you feel unburdened by that. That's guhyam, akhyati, pricchati. It's very helpful. So devotee Sanga. I can tell who wants to talk. I'll just pull this out.
I was thinking that when we're around advanced devotees, that they don't even have to, they don't say anything to point out our anarthas or our faults. We can feel them, we can see them ourselves by being around someone who is pure at hearted and has a really wonderful service attitude, isn't fault finding. And for me, that's the most powerful. Yes, I know the mantra, I live to be corrected. But it's a lot easier when I can recognize it in myself and then try to work on it in that way. And so, as people were saying, if we search out really good association, find someone who we can emulate, I think that's one of the best ways to rid ourselves of bad habits or anarthas.
Yes, Vaisesika Prabhu.
May I share a reflection on that?
Reflection, yes.
Okay. I have a question and a couple of reflections. I really appreciated Gurudev the example of the ocean of tears in the material world. I think it's quite vivid and quite visual just to envision it, that there is an ocean of tears and it exists. Very vivid example. Thank you for sharing that. The other one that I was thinking, we just came from a youth Sanga with Chachinandan Maharaj, and he was kind of sharing the same thing that you were bringing, which is that the truth that is hiding, that we are keeping behind our backs, and we bring it in front, and it diminishes. And I was thinking of how camphor sometimes, we hide it and it disappears. And he was saying that Satya, the quality of Satya does not just mean to always speak the truth, but to also look at ourselves truly so that we become free by it, so that it gives that freeing quality. So I was making that connection. The question that I have, Gurudev, is I personally feel that these topics, I hear them over and over and over, and I feel that there is this stone-like quality in the heart that it doesn't pierce somehow, that the words are there, that the message is there, the importance of association is there, and I almost wonder does it require a personal crisis for it to deepen, or can we avoid that personal crisis and still soak in the meaning?
Well, we can't avoid personal crises because they come of their own accord. And would you all like to move up again?
And there's room over here also.
Plenty of room.
Over here.
Capacity is only 64. This topic of anartha nivritti is a really important topic because once we find our sincerity and we commit ourselves to Krishna, then we may also find that we're swimming in an ocean that seemingly has no shore. But we can take heart from the encouragements that come throughout the Shastra. For instance, when Akura was praying to Lord Krishna, he said, a log may float seemingly forever down a river, but sometime it comes to its resting place. But even more than that, that's in reference to chance meeting of Vaishnavas. Once you've already done that, and you realize that you want to make the journey no matter what. In the beginning, there may be what's called utsahan mayi, which means early zeal. Oftentimes, when we take up a new discipline, like piano, for instance, maybe you've had 3.5 lessons, and suddenly you feel, I'm a maestro. And everyone's going, maybe not so much. And there are various other obstacles that we may experience, not the least of which is just not knowing when it's all going to end, because it seems endless. And one of the ways that that's helpful for us is that we may not take it for granted that I can dabble in the material world and get away with it. Because one of the offenses to the holy name, which blocks our ability to advance, is to have a thought that because chanting of Hare Krishna is so powerful, perhaps it'll mitigate my other activities, my other bad habits, and therefore I don't need to give them up. Somehow or other, Krishna will just do it all. And that can become an offense if we take it for granted that the holy name is there. Therefore, it's a great benefit when we see, first we realize our sincerity, that we'd like to be a pure devotee. And second of all, when we see how stubborn are the anarthas that are there, seemingly, as you put, stone-like, or as I'm putting, an ocean that has no shore, at least we don't know where it is yet. We can't, it's not in sight. And that can instill in us a sense for how careful we must be in the environment of the material world. And never taking it for granted that if I touch the material world, I'm just going to put my little toe in. That it won't come back in an inordinate way, that will become so stubborn. And the results of that will carry on for so long that at one point we may become very wise, and that means also sober-minded, that I'm never touching anything in this store again, because every time I've touched it, it's broken, and I had to pay for it, and a lot, because I didn't know it was a 12,000-year-old Ming Dynasty cup. I just thought it was an ordinary cup, but now that's $1 million for one breakage. And when we come to bear, seeing our anarthas is mercy, that they're so strong, because then we may decide that I'll move carefully in the world. And that's also a powerful realization. When Nirakula was describing being around advanced devotees, you notice that they're careful. Something Prabhupada mentions in his purports. He said, not only do you have to follow the process and the regulative principles, he said, but you also have to be very careful. He also says it's a regulative principle that you should not fall down. So all of these things, they go into our character. And yes, there's ways that we can rise above by Krishna's mercy, by going on with our service with sincere prayer to Krishna, by association of devotees. And there will be land in sight. This is the Shastras tells us that, as for example, in the Vedanta Sutra, there's a verse that says, and I'm paraphrasing, don't think you can't advance. And the reason it says that is because all the Shastras are giving you advice how to advance. If you then say, well, I can't advance, then one might ask, as Srila Vyasadeva does it when he wrote the sutras, it's like, who is it talking to? If it's talking to you, that means you can advance. Advance means you can come to the shore. And I've thought of anartha and nivriti to be something like writing a book. Because if you've ever written a book, at least for me, it's like swimming in an ocean. Once I'm in there, I realize I have to write the book, but I don't know how I'm going to get there to the end. And it feels like, okay, you just got to keep swimming. And it's the same thing with our process. Bolster yourself by good association. The other benefit we have as human beings is we can develop good habits. It's a really good habit to hear and chant every day. For instance, you can start with something that seems simple enough. Yeah, we're busy. But start with something that you can do every day as a demonstration to Krishna that I'm sincere and this is what I can start with now. And if you do that on a regular basis, then you'll feel spiritual strength. It's forthcoming, and this is Krishna's kindness. He's so forgiving, and he's also forthcoming with his mercy for anyone who demonstrates him or herself to Krishna that I'm going to make a stand here because I can't make a stand here. This is where I am right now. I'll start with this. And this is, Krishna, how I'm going to show you that what I can do. And he'll reciprocate. From that, he'll give you good sense. He'll give you, that's valuable to have good sense. Plenty of people walking around with no sense at all. But when you get it, you know it. And also when you get spiritual strength, you know it came from Krishna because you just knew on Monday that you couldn't do it yourself. And on Thursday you realize maybe I can. And then you can say, thank you, Krishna. And then keep chanting. It's like, thank you, Krishna. Thank you, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Thank you, thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And that's our relationship with Krishna to begin with. We were reading the other day about how Jarasandha had captured many kings, thousands of them, and he kept them imprisoned in caves and treated them horribly. And when Kṛṣṇa and Bhimasena and Arjuna came and defeated Jarasandha, you know the story, they came as Brahmins, although they were Kshatriyas, they disguised themselves as Brahmanas. And they came at a time when Jarasandha, who was very charitable, would give anything to Brahmins. And when they came to him, it was Uddhava's idea, he came up with this plan. As the rest of the Yadavas just wanted to run into battle with Jarasandha, the young ones, they said, forget this plan, let's just go get him. But Kṛṣṇa let calmer heads prevail, and they went there to Jarasandha, and he offered charity and said, well, we just want to fight with you. And then he realized who they were, and he's like, fight with you? I don't even know if you're qualified. You already lowered yourself by coming and begging from me and so forth. But the fight took place, and he chose to fight with Bhima because he said, Kṛṣṇa, you already ran away from me once, so I'm not going to fight with you. You're a coward. He was the rancher. Where's rancher? I know. Rancher ki jai. And he said, okay, Bhima, maybe he can fight me. And they fought and they fought and they fought for 30 days. And then Kṛṣṇa gave him some indication that Jarasandha had been born in two parts, thrown in the forest, which called Jara, came and found the two parts, put them together, and said, hey, a nice child. But he could be bifurcated again. So they fought, and Bhima then tore him in two, and he died. And then Kṛṣṇa enthroned Jarasandha's son. He didn't want the kingdom, that part. He just gave it to his son, and he freed all the kings. And the kings came out with prayers. They're beautiful prayers you can recite to Kṛṣṇa. And they admit how they were carried away by their kingly opulences. And they had forgotten how to be humble servants. And noticeable in the story is that before Kṛṣṇa sends them back to their kingdoms, he brought in manicurists, hairstylists. It was a spa. He made a big spa, a king spa. He put them all through the spa, so they didn't have to go out looking defeated. The last thing a king wants to do is walk back in the kingdom all torn up and skinny. And Kṛṣṇa is so kind that he helped put them all back together so they could go back and do their duty. So Kṛṣṇa's on our side. He wants us to be whole. He wants us to be free to give him unlimited service. So it's not an uphill battle forever. Just the beginning part in anartha nivritti, when it seems like the heart won't turn, but it will. And Kṛṣṇa's right there in our heart. He knows all our desires. And everything counts. Even the smallest gesture that you can make in your practice of devotional service is recorded and counted. And it all comes out in the wash. Let's see if there's another question. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, who raised their hand? Let's do a double take. Okay. 1, 2, what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And, okay. Please.
I know that part of, your advancement depends on the degree of trust that you have in Krishna. And sometimes I think, that little kid who's asked to do a trust fall and they just do it. And sometimes they're like, are you really there? Are you going to catch me? Are you really there? Are you there? Are you sure? I'm gonna lean back a little, but I'm gonna look to make sure you're there. How any ways to just, without having somebody push you, maybe from the front, to take that fall without going, I'm gonna make sure you're there first.
it's a relationship. So oftentimes we talk about having trust in God. Do I believe in God? Is He really there? Do I trust Him? But He's a person. And if you work on the other side of the relationship and try to be trustworthy to God, it's much easier. Think about, how can I show myself to Krishna so that He could trust me? Am I trustworthy to Him? Do I actually do what I say I'm going to do? Am I actually doing what I show to people outside? What do I do behind closed doors? That's the part that if you work on, then Krishna will work on the other side. He'll manifest that. And we can use our free will to become trustworthy in Krishna's purview as He sees us. How does He see us? How do we show up for Him? And when He develops more and more trust, He engages us in obvious ways. Where, okay, He trusted me again. That's so heartfelt when you notice that Krishna engaged you, because He knows everything everyone else doesn't know. Practically nobody knows us in this world. We don't, as you pointed out, know ourselves that well. But if you work on showing Krishna that you're trustworthy, that helps. Okay, let's do one. How much time do we have? 7:45. Okay. Okay, who did I say next? Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
No?
You there?
You
Hare
just
Krishna,
hold it
can you hear
chest
me?
high,
Can you hear me?
and then speak to the room.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj and Guru Ma, for taking time out. I know how busy your schedules are and how packed your time is, but
We're not busy.
Thank you so much. So, we were talking about, different oceans, ocean of tears and ocean of liquor. So Bhagavatam also in the 12th canto, it talks about, ocean of miseries, and then how you mentioned...
Ocean of what?
Misery.
Ocean of misery.
Yes. And it also talks about how the holy name dries up the ocean of miseries. And I was thinking about, and there is a particular verse that talks about that. If I have your permission, I'd like to recite that.
Please.
So the verse is Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam Tadeva Shashvan Manaso Mahotsavam Tadeva Sokarnava Shoshanam Nrinam Yaduttam Sloke Yaso Nuguyate. So this verse talks about how the holy name is Ramyam and Ruchiram. Ramyam is attractive and Ruchiram is tasty. So the more you chant, it becomes more and more newer and palatable. And then the second line talks about Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram. Tadeva Manasa Mahotsavam. It says the names are perpetual festivity to the mind. And the third line talks about Tadeva Svokarnava Shoshanam Nidam. It says how the holy name dries up the ocean of miseries. So I was thinking about this verse, about how the holy
Well
names...
done.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's
Thank you,
beautiful. Come from a family of... Everyone in your family is a pundit. Okay, well, let's pass it over here, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna,
Guru Ma,
Hare
for
Krishna.
being here, and I feel so grateful for being in this association. Can one surrender to Krishna without being initiated?
Well, initiation is a very heartfelt way of surrendering. And it's recommended by our acharyas. Rupa Goswami lists 64 items of devotional service. And the first 3 have to do with surrender through initiation. And those who do take initiation can attest to the ways of the efficacy of that. They can attest to the efficacy of that giving vows before a trusted representative of Krishna. That it gives one this sense of connection and verification and energy. So anyone can chant Hari Krishna, but when one comes to the realization that I need more help, and I would like to have a connection to the Guru Parampara. And I'd also like to express myself to Kṛṣṇa that I'm making these vows. Then it becomes quite natural to do that. So yes, to some degree, but it is, I guess I should make it more clear, it is what is recommended by Rupa Goswami that if one wants to enter more deeply into devotional service and continue advancing, then one should accept the bona fide spiritual master. I give you some personal anecdotes and also from the Shastra in the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's extensive commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Prabhupada gives most of it at the end of that section on the Jamil. It's an addendum that he puts in, a very long section. And it's in that section that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about how for chanting the holy name of the Lord, of course anybody can chant, but if one has proximity to a Vaishnav who can offer one initiation into the chanting of the holy name, and then one doesn't take it, then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that person is committing the third offense, which is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. And he says that you go on chanting and you'll get a spiritual master in your next life. So those who might read that commentary would say, then I'll follow the authorized process and try to accept a bona fide spiritual master in this life. Hare Krishna. Okay, one more over here and one more over here. Okay, you two are sitting next to each other, so you can each.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavata
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
My question is, as you mentioned just now, to answer that question, how to develop the Vashnoism and etiquettes within our house, within the closed door. Sometimes we are outside world, we are a Vaishno, great Vaishno, we respect each other. But within the closed door, within our family members, sometimes because we taken them for granted and then we do not follow those etiquettes. So, Maharaj, I need a guidance, like how can we develop that within our house?
Taking that as encouragement, because if he's handing me the mic, maybe he thinks I'm doing that okay. You know, just like outside, it comes down to respect and knowing that no one and nothing belongs to us. You know, we're nobody's wife, we're nobody's husband, we're nobody's father. We're caretakers of another spirit soul that Kṛṣṇa has put in our lives. And if we can remember that we are there to take care of them, then, and see them more in a spiritual light, then it really helps. When Prue and I were first associating, I had it in my mind that he's my godbrother, and I felt like he was given to me as a gift to take care of. And sure, we have a very familiar relationship. We've been married 38 years, and so there's a familiarity and, you know, a loving relationship. But foremost, I still have that thought in my mind, in my heart, that he's my godbrother. And I don't want to offend him. I don't want to take him for granted. And I have a lot of gratitude for him and for the relationship. So I think that when we have gratitude for our relationships, that is a big help. And sometimes expressing it really helps. You know, once a day, find something, you know, with your children or your wife or your husband, somebody that you feel like you might overstep a boundary with, and just get in the habit of saying something to appreciate them and be grateful for, and that helps to build that relationship. take a step back and, as I said, we don't belong to anybody and nobody belongs to us. We just have to do our best to fan the spark and take care of each other.
Thank you.
No, I agree. I agree with what you said. I could add more, but it would be more details on top of that. I think what you said was very, very helpful. Yeah. If I think of more, I'll say more. Please.
Thank you for opening time for all of us to give your guidance. On the discussion of not hiding your own anarthas, I find that for at least me, a very convenient way to forget about your anarthas and push them to the side is to just throw yourself at service, because especially if you do by your level of success well, then it kind of is just an easier distraction to just say, hey, I'm just doing this well and I might be getting recognition for it, even though it's and then I come back to my rounds and I don't focus on my own anarthas, and I'm not pushing myself to really deepen my Krishna consciousness. I just feel like, hey, I'm just cruising in my services, especially if I'm getting recognition for it. So it either feels insincere, duplicitous, or just a way of hiding your anarthas. So, but on the other hand, the service can be a way to purify. But if you feel like your anarthas are inhibiting your service to be completed properly, then how do you get around that?
Well, one thing is not to get too mental. You don't have to overthink it in some ways. Although we're trying to analyze it from various points of view, life goes on. And the way I've realized progress comes in life is to make a series of comebacks. Sometimes you make 5 or 6 comebacks during one round of japa. Or in any given day, you might find yourself making comebacks and pulling back to what you know is correct. And it's also important to embrace our own imperfection in the beginning and start from where we are. Krishna says something very helpful to Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Sve Sve Adhikaraya Nishta Saguna Parikirtita Viparayata Doshasyat Ubaryor. He says that when you act according to your own level and do the best you can in that level, that's a good thing. It's a good quality. You try to act in a level that's more advanced than you are at the present time, then he says it's a fault. So you have to do the best you can with what you have in the moment. And as far as, actually I may not have understood everything he said, but one point was about just forgetting about your anarthas and throwing yourself into service. Did you mention that?
Yeah, using your service as a distraction from the main efforts of purification.
Well, service is purifying. And if you stay in service and you keep doing your chanting, then you will gradually get purified. But what we're talking about is if we are deliberately trying to avoid making advancement. And that can feel uncomfortable. So I was just advocating earlier for trying to come clear about what kinds of things I need to work on. And there's nothing wrong with throwing yourself into service, but the part about just ignoring your anarthas, that may I'll just give the example of great devotees, like Raghunath Das Goswami talks about more subtle forms of anarthas. When you clean a room, in the beginning it seems as if it may be a simple task, but the more you clean, the more you realize it needs a lot of work. And when we get more precise about what's going on inside us, and we try to overcome the subtler anarthas, then we'll be well served by doing that. We are well served by doing that. So I don't recommend just forgetting about it or ignoring it, but I think you're not entirely doing that since you even brought it up. It's a way to expose that mentality. The mind's very difficult to work with. It can be very tricky. And we also have to manage the physical nature that we have. For instance, if I get really hungry and then all of a sudden I feel like I'm worthless, my wife might say, "Oh no, you just need to eat." And I have some prasadam, I feel like, yeah, I think I can do this. But that's part of the mind-body experience we have. We're spiritual beings living in a physical body. So we need to we want to analyze, but can't get too convoluted in the process. It's very straightforward in a way that if we continue in devotional service and just try to be truthful with ourselves, we'll be okay. I think you're okay. That's my observation. We like you a lot. You said there was somebody to call on.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So I've noticed within advanced and exalted devotees like yourself and Guru Maharaj that even in the most extreme situations or situations where I think that for me it's very black and white. This is right, this is wrong, or he's right, she's wrong. Even in those kind of situations, very advanced devotees, they have such a creative perspective on those situations and never have any kind of fault finding or criticizing or being biased towards one or the other. And I was just wondering, how do we develop that quality? Because this fault finding and criticizing is such a nasty quality, and I feel like it just destroys Krishna consciousness. And so, how can I develop that quality of just even in those situations, just having a Krishna conscious perspective on it?
I remember once when there were two devotees talking, two devotees that we knew very well. We knew their characters, and one of them was complaining about was going through the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Anything that started with A, like apples. What's the deal with apples anyway? And he's just complaining about every single thing. And the other one was this devotee. He's a smart person, but he took a very humble approach. And I think we were both walking by, or you were walking by, and the interlocutor who was receiving all this complaints, criticisms of other people, he just said, "Yeah, I'm just trying to be grateful." And it was one sentence, and it shut down the whole thing. The other person was so disappointed. And gratitude is very powerful. If you try to find what you're grateful for in other people, it can kill that conversation in your own head. And it's one of the reasons that we avoid blaspheming devotees. With the caveat, we do have to do due process. If somebody's bullying us or doing something that's inherently wrong, then we have to deal with it in a way that society would deal with so that we're not harmed. We don't just stuff things like that, but we have to do it dispassionately and with the Vaishnav etiquette and heart. It's also meaning your observation of those who may have balance in their life comes a lot from living long. The longer you live, the more you see that things are not black and white. Things are never as good as they seem or as bad as they seem. And learning to not embarrass yourself by overreacting on either side. Oh, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good. It's like, yeah, you forgot about this part. Or, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad. Yeah, but tomorrow it looks much better because it created a favorable circumstance. Just the nature of the world is that nothing's, well, I'll just put it categorically. Actually, everything's bad in the material world. And that's the perspective of Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad Gītā. He said, you know the top of the universe? Yeah. You know the bottom? Yeah. All that in between, that's really bad. Covers everything. But as far as our interaction with it goes, he also tells us in the Bhagavad Gītā that be equipoised. It's a nice practice. See what it feels like to not overreact to things. When you criticize, Kṛṣṇa says, don't overreact to it. Just handle it. Or when something else, you get disappointed in something, just remember, I didn't have anything anyway when I came into the world, and I'm going to leave with nothing. Prabhupada gives this example. He said he noticed on a train once, there was only a certain number of seats. And people crowd onto the train, and everyone took up the seats, and he didn't get the seat that he wanted, or any seat. And then he thought, well, it's only a half hour to the next station, so why get involved in this? And he points that out as a universal principle. Life goes on. In fact, when I first joined the movement, I heard a story Prabhupada told about. Was called the story of the hairy sage. And this sage had a benediction that he would live for a lifetime of Brahma for every hair he had on his body. And he was a very hairy sage. and he lived in a very simple way. It's out in nature, he didn't bother to cover himself. And people came and said, why don't you do something to take care of yourself? He said, I'm not here long. I'm not here long at all. It's just, I'm coming and going, so why get so involved? And if you remember the hairy sage, whenever something comes up, extend the timeline and just think. It always works out. The tincture of time. You take a little drop and just get a new perspective. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
I had a question. Is that sometimes I feel that personally in my life, I'm always living a life for somebody's validation or certification. Always trying to prove that I'm worth of something.
You're trying to validate yourself and prove yourself.
Yeah, kind of.
Prove you're worth something.
Yeah, it's sometimes proving to myself internally, and sometimes I feel like I need to be validated. I mean, everybody's validating me, so I need to live up to something, so that I have to show that I'm worth something. And it many times actually brings a blackout stage in me. I completely become silent. So
could you hear that? It's a stress she's feeling from needing to be validated at a certain point, right?
Yeah, how do you handle this, and how far?
Well, it's helpful to have people around you that can validate you or assess you. In any discipline that you want to advance in, whether it's writing or field hockey or sewing, or garland making. Is that a wide enough array? It's important to have a mentor, a coach. Those who excel in athletics, they always have coaches. Even the coach isn't as good as they are by a long shot. But the coach is there to validate or to point out where you can improve. And for those who want to improve, that's vital. Because first of all, you don't know how well you're doing until somebody who knows can assess it. And you also sometimes need to have encouragement. It goes a long way. If you keep that in mind and encourage others when you see them, catch people doing something right and encourage them. And also try to arrange to have people in your life that can help validate you. And it's a psychological need, and it's also a necessity for improving in anything. And we just have a few minutes left, so I thought we could end with a little kirtan. I really pray that any of the ways that you're being subjected to the troubles of the material world may become tolerable in your lives. May Krishna enliven you about the opportunity we have to follow Srila Prabhupada, who's given us a gateway to enter into the spiritual world through the practice of Krishna consciousness as given by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. May there be no other options in this world, because all others fall short of that which comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through His representatives. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, Shri Radha Manan Mohan, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev, if you so desire, please protect the hearts of all the devotees from the anomalies of this world and give them great hope and enthusiasm to go on practicing Krishna consciousness every day by chanting 16 rounds as best as possible and following 4 regulative principles so as not to implicate oneself in the material world. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with these prayers in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hari Krishna. Vansha kalpadrvishcha kripasinave vicha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nanta koti Vaishnaviki Gaur Premanande. There's an initiation ceremony tomorrow.
3 o'clock in the Conway.
3 o'clock in the Conway building.
Conway room.
In the Conway room.
Right opposite the Kirtan hall.
Just go straight. Vanchakalpadrvishcha kripasinave vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nanta koti Vaishnaviki Jai. Anybody who's feeling completely down or morose, you stay after. Everybody else go to Prasadam. Go to Prasadam.